Dear Mrs. Naidu, by Matangi Subramanian. June 10th, 2013. Dear Mrs. Naidu, I guess you're wondering why I'm writing you this letter. Honestly, Mrs. Naidu, so am I. Amma says I'm not allowed to speak to strangers. You would think that also meant that I shouldn't write to them. But since this is a school assignment, she says it's okay. Here is a tip, Mrs. Naidu. If you ever want adults to let you do something, just tell them it is a school assignment. They will 100% agree to it every time. Maybe I should start from the beginning. The beginning was last week. Last week, I started class 6 and I met our new teacher, Annie Miss, who is not like any teacher I have had before. For example, Annie Miss says she doesn't think school should be about memorizing things and saying them back. She says memorizing things and saying them back makes you a parrot, not a person. She says she wants us to grow our brains and our hearts. When she said that, I wanted to ask how our hearts will help us pass our exams and college and get a job and buy a house with a proper roof and maybe even a garden, which are all the reasons why we go to school. But I didn't. You know how adults are, Mrs. Naidu. They don't like questions. Even though it was only the first week of school, Miss gave us an assignment. Miss says that now that we are in 6th standard, it is time for us to be serious. Every teacher says this every year. But none of them ever gave us assignments during the first week of school, so Annie Miss might mean it. The assignment is to write letters to someone we would like to get to know better. She said that we could pick anyone, as long as we explain why. As you have probably concluded, Mrs. Naidu, I picked you. This is the first time I have written the word concluded. It's an English word that means figured out based on clues and evidence. I learned it by reading detective stories, even though our English miss says they are useless rags. I conclude that she is wrong. I understand if you find this confusing, Mrs. Naidu. After all, you and I don't have much in common. For one thing, I am alive and you are, well, you are not. I'm sorry if that was rude, but I've never written to a historical person before. So I don't really know the polite way to say it. Here's another difference between us. When you were 12, which is how old I am now, you wrote a poem that was thousands of lines long, and it was in English. I don't think I could write that many lines in any language. Definitely not in English. Also, when you were 12, you topped the Madras University matriculation exam. I topped our class 5 exams. But I don't think I could top a college exam, even if I studied really, really hard. You fought for India's freedom and won. I've never fought for anything. If I did, I'm not sure if I would win. Especially if I was fighting against the Britishers, who have lots of spies and detectives and things that I don't think we have in India. You lived in a huge house with a lot of rooms and maids to do your housework. My house has only one room, and Amma is a maid who does other people's housework. You had a lot of brothers and sisters, and then you had a lot of kids. I don't have any brothers and sisters. I don't have kids either. But you probably concluded that already, since I'm only 12. Here is why I decided to write to you. I'm reading a book about your life. Vimla madam gave it to me, or she gave it to Amma to give to me. I haven't read all of it yet. It's in English, but much more complicated English than the kind they use in detective stories. So it's taking me some time. So far, I've only read the part about your childhood. But that part makes me like you. When you were my age, or even younger, Mrs. Naidu, it seems like you stood up to parents and teachers and all the adults who don't understand anything at all, but act like they do. For example, the book says that your parents wanted you to speak English instead of Bengali. It says you locked yourself in a room for a whole day because you disagreed with them. You didn't even come down for lunch. I don't know if this is true or just a story, but if I had a house with more than one room, there are plenty of times I would have locked myself behind a closed door. I guess that's why you seem like someone who understands kids like me. Like, maybe you wouldn't mind if I asked you questions and read detective stories and stayed at school late so I didn't have to go to Vimla madam's house. And now I have completed my first assignment, which is to introduce myself to the person that I am writing to. To be completely honest, my brain and my heart feel exactly the same as when I started. All the best, Sarojini. P.S. This reminds me of something we do have in common. We have the same first name.